plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. God says, in spite of how your past may look, your future looks good. And somebody needs to hear that. So why don't you become a preacher for a moment and tell your neighbor, in spite of how bad your past looks, your future looks good. God says, I don't care what you've done. I have a future for you. Now that shouts me to know that God still has a future for me. In spite of my sinfulness, out of all the stuff wrong that I've done, the low down things I've done, the many times I've let God down. Don't look at me funny, you too. And God still says, I have a future for you. And I think somebody can shout today to know that how you ended up is better than how you started out. Somebody knows how you ended up. You started out on drugs, but you ended up in the church. You started out in the clubs, but you ended up in the choir. You started out on Skid Row, but you ended up in the pulpit. You started out an alcoholic, but you ended up a deacon. You started out doing the bump and grind, but you ended up on the praise team. You started out a blood shedder, but you ended up blood bought. You started out condemned, but you ended up justified. You started out a failure, but you ended up more than a conqueror, because it ain't how you start out, it's how you end up. Do I have a witness here? And one dark Friday, Jesus didn't have a good start. One dark Friday, he started out being marched from Judgment Hall to Judgment Hall. He started out with a cross on his shoulder. He didn't have a good start. He started out letting them put nails in his hand and a nail in his feet and a spear in his side. He didn't have a good start. They hung him high, stretched him wide, and dropped him low. But it ain't how you start out, it's how you end up. Because that Friday did not define his future, because early Sunday morning he got up with all power in his hand. It ain't how you start out, it's how you end up. A diamond doesn't start out being a diamond. It starts out being worthless coal. But in the process of time and under pressure, that coal has a chemical change. And what was once useless becomes priceless. It ain't how you start out, it's how you end up. A butterfly doesn't start out being a butterfly, but it starts out as an ugly worm. It's a caterpillar inside of a cocoon, and all went along it's an ugly worm. But when springtime comes, he starts to break out. Can I get a witness here? And somebody, you've been down long enough, you need to learn how to break out. Can I get a witness? Break out of depression, break out of poverty, break out of having your head down, break out of a low self-esteem. But when springtime comes, you don't see an ugly worm, you see a beautiful butterfly. It ain't how you start out, it's how you end up. Can I get a witness? If you've got fine china, that china didn't always be china. It started out mud or clay. But when the mud was in the potter's hand, he began to shape it and he began to mold it. Do I have a witness here? And then he put it in the furnace. And I'm sure that if that china could talk, that the china must have said to the master, it's hot in here. I wish you would get me out I wish you would get me out of the fire. But the master says, I know how long to let you stay in. If I get you out now, you'll break too easily. I gotta let you stay in. Can I get a witness here? And every now and then we feel like saying, God, get us out. Get me out of these trials. Get me out of this trouble. But God says, I know how long to let you stay in. If I get you out now, you'll break too easily. If I get you out now, you won't pray like you ought to. If I get you out now, you won't read your Bible. I know how long to let you stay in. Can I get a witness? There's purpose in your pain. I know what I'm talking about. I've had my share of ups and downs. I've had many tears and sorrows. I've had question for tomorrow. There have been times when I did not know right from wrong. But in every situation, God gave me blessed consolation that my trials come to make me strong. So I thank God for my mountain. I thank God for my valleys. I thank God for the storm He brought me through. If I never had a problem, I wouldn't know that God could solve them. I wouldn't know what faith in His word could do. But through it all, I said through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in His word. I've had good days. I've had hills to climb. I've had rainy days and lonely nights. But when I look around and when I think things over, my good days outweigh my bad days. So I won't complain. Yeah.